Good afternoon and welcome to Autism Daily. How will autism affect my child's ability to learn? This is a question that every single parent out there asks when they first get the diagnosis. Autism is a neurological disorder, and by its definition, this means that there will be an impact on how the child is able to learn and develop. It doesn't mean that the child is not able to learn. It means the way the child learns is impacted. Let's look at a few basics. So following verbal instruction. When we're in a mainstream schooling environment, we're expected to learn by following verbal instruction. So for many children on the autism spectrum, that actually is quite challenging. For many children on the spectrum, it's much easier to learn visually. So if a curriculum isn't adapted to suit the child and to allow for the child to learn visually, then yes, the process of gaining new skill could be very challenging. Concentration could be another element that our children struggle with. For many children on the autism spectrum, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder does come into play, and that's going to affect our kids and their ability to, just sit still long enough to gain new skills. The diagnostic criteria of autism, which is restrictive behaviors or routines, that's going to have to be taken into consideration moving forward. And again, you've got to remember, autism is not a learning disability. Autism doesn't mean that the child can't learn. It means that the child needs to learn differently. So when you look at restrictive routines or narrow interests, if you're working with a specialist school and a specialist educator, then you can be reassured that they know how to use that child's special interests and their narrow routines to actually enhance learning opportunities. Otherwise, these concentration problems, these restrictive routines are going to hinder the child from actually gaining or acquiring new skills. Many autistic children battle to see the bigger picture. Again, very narrow focus, very interested only in certain things and very disinterested in other things. And, things like pen and paper activity are challenging for our children. They don't necessarily like one-dimensional activities. They like things that are touchy and feely, and they, need a whole lot of different types of activities. Otherwise, yes, it is going to affect them. And I think one of the other elements that we need to look at is the social interaction that a child with autism struggles with. Social and emotional interaction is one of the diagnostic criteria of autism. And when we look at a baby, when we look at a 2-year-old, a 3-year-old, a toddler, these children learn through play. And when the child is not able to integrate into that play session appropriately, very often you find that skills that child should be learning do in fact not get learned because of the difficulty with that interaction with other people and just with activities in general. So yes, having autism can impact your child's future. It is very important for you to, however, understand right from the offset that autism does definitely and by no means equal them. Just because the child is unable to speak does not make that child unable to learn. Just because the child may not make eye contact with you or may not respond to you from a very young age doesn't mean that the child is any less capable. On the contrary, it's my experience that quite the opposite is true. Our children are so intelligent and they're so clever and they can absolutely learn everything. The way they learn is different. What they require from you as the parent or as the educator is just that extra bit. It doesn't help that you expect that this child that's wired so differently is expected to learn the same way as the rest of the children in the class, because that's going to affect the child in the long run. So yes, can autism affect the child's learning? Yes, it can. If the child is not in an autism-specific type environment where people and professionals are educated and skilled at helping them use every method possible to help them gain the skills that they need. Because the one thing that I can promise you, autism is not a learning disability. No matter how profoundly autistic your child can learn. And in the right environment, they will learn. I hope you've enjoyed today's session. For more information on what we do, please feel free to log on to www.amazingk.co.za. Alternatively, you can also follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and be sure to subscribe to our Autism Daily sessions. We're here to walk the journey with you. Have a wonderful day and see you all tomorrow.